Hello everyone. I hope you guys got that assignment done yesterday. Like I said from yesterday, I will be coming back Friday. Now, let me kind of run through this again. If you guys want to make a note of this, your raft riding assignment. Okay, that's what you guys did Monday. So I'm gonna write down raft riding is due Friday. And guys, that should be a free 100. Okay, free 100 as long as you show some effort on that. That's all I'm after. All right. Now, so make sure you guys understand that. That assignment is due Friday. Okay. So let's start talking about some fun stuff. You guys will be glad to know that I did not hit anything while I was doing my driving test, so that's good. But one more day and I will have my, hopefully, if everything goes well, I should have my bus license. So that should be good. Okay, now, there's sometimes where you're going to be asked to solve equations by factoring. Okay, everybody should have this. This should be going in your notes. So everybody should have a piece of paper, their notebook, their notes, and a pencil. Should be writing this stuff down. Okay, so you're going to be asked to solve equations. So essentially, the main word I want you to look at is solve. We're not simplifying anymore. Okay, now sometimes they'll give you an equation like this. Okay, they'll give you something like this, and they'll say solve it, and they'll say it by factoring. So that's the other key word of this. So essentially, we need to factor this out first of all. Okay, we need to factor this out. What I mean by that is, let's focus on this left side of this equation. Okay, just focus on this left side. Looks like we can factor out. Look at what both these terms have in common. Looks like I have an x here and I have an x here. So essentially, I can factor out an x. If I factored out an x from 9x squared, what am I going to have left? I'm going to have 9x. If I factor out an x from x, I'm just going to have a plus 1 right there. Okay? Then you have your equal 0. So essentially, you find the greatest common factor just like you guys have been doing. Okay? Our GCF would be x. Now this is kind of a simple one you can kind of look at and say, okay, it looks like my GCF is going to be x. Does everybody see that? And then you can always check. Look what happens if I distributed these numbers. Okay, if you distribute that out, you're going to get your original equation. So that is your always best way to check and see if you're doing this correctly. Okay, that is the best way to check. Okay, so now this is where you need to, they call this the zero product property. That's what they call this. They want you to essentially turn these into two equations. You guys remember when we did case 1 and case 2? This is kind of similar to that. Let's focus on this 9x plus 1. Okay? The zero product property tells us that we can write this down and have it equal to 0. Okay? So that's one, essentially that's one case right there. The other side of this is whatever's on this outside is essentially another scenario. Okay? So you would have this equal to 0. Has everybody seen that? So, let's look what I have on my left. I have x equals 0. That is already solved for x. So I know that I'm going to have 0 as a part of my, they call this solution set. Okay? Now, if I wanted to solve for x over here, I'm going to minus 1 from both sides. And I'm going to get 9x is equal to a negative 1. Divide 9 from both sides. And look at my fraction that I get. I get x is equal to a negative 1/9. Okay, so written correctly, your solution set would be written as, what did you find for your first one? Well, I found x is equal to 0. Okay, remember our blue part right here, x equals 0. So then you would just write 0. Now what did you find for your second part? I found that x could be equal to a negative 1 over 9. So you would write negative 1 over 9. And this would be your solution set. Okay? Does everybody see that? That's essentially your solution set. Now, there's a way to check and see if your answer is correct. Okay? There's an actual way to do this. What you would do is substitute your two values of what we found. We found x could be equal to 0 and x could be equal to a negative 1 over 9. If you substituted this 0 into our original equation here, you would get 0 equals 0. Same thing if I substituted this negative 1 over 9 in for x here and here. You would eventually get, if you worked it out correctly, you'd get 0 equals 0. So that means we are correct. So that's what it means by check your solution. Alright? I promise it'll make more sense. Let me work through another problem. I'm getting ready to clear it. Now, something that so that's one kind of thing you'll see. A lot of the times you'll see it kind of written as you'll see it written as this. And they'll say solve each equation. Well, you're going to do the same exact thing as we just did. We're going to make these, look what I have on the outside right here. I have an x, so I'm going to make this equal to 0. Next, I'm going to take what I have inside my parentheses, and I'm going to make that equal to 0. Now my left one is already solved for x. Over here I'm going to minus 3 from both sides, and x is going to give me a negative 3. Okay? So your solution set would be 0. What you had over here, what you had in blue, and what you had right here. X is equal to a negative 3, so then you would write negative 3. That would be your solution set. So don't overthink this, guys. Don't make it harder than it seems. Okay? Now, so that's another way you might see it written as. Now another way, another possibility is is you'll see it already split up into essentially two equations right here. Okay? Sometimes you'll see it just like this. Now, what you do here is, look, I have my one equation over here, and essentially I have my other equation right here. And if it asks us to solve each equation, you're just going to make these equal to 0. So on one side, I'm going to have 4m plus 8 equal to 0, and then I'm going to have m minus 3 is equal to 0. Now, for both of these, you need to solve for m. So let's start with the left one first. I'm going to minus 8 from both sides. Then I get 4m is equal to a negative 8. Alright? I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And I'm going to come up with a m is equal to a negative 2. Next up, I'm going to solve this, what I have underlined in red. Okay? I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And this is going to give me m equals 3. So this one's pretty simple. I have m equals negative 2, so then I would write a negative 2. And lastly, I would write my second equation of m equals 3 right here. This is my solution. And that would be my solution set. Alright? Now lastly, sometimes you'll get something like this. Alright? In this case, you need to solve. You need to make this equal to 0. So essentially, you need to minus 12y squared from both sides, because I need to get this on one side. I need to get this equal to 0. So if I minus 12y squared from both sides, what I get here is a negative 12y squared plus a positive 8y, and now I have this equal to 0. Okay? Now from here, we need to factor out what is our GCF in this case. Look at this equation. Just look at it. What would be our GCF in this? Now, looks like, first of all, if you factor this out completely, looks like I know for a fact a y is going to factor out. Okay? I know that for a fact. And then it also looks like, if I completely factor this out, I'm going to factor it out over to the side so you guys can see this. Okay. So I'm going to factor out here so you guys can do this on your paper if you need to. So if I factor out this number, it looks like I get a negative 1 first of all. Okay. Times, I can do 6 times 2. Now if I factor out 6, I can go 3 times 2 right here. Does everybody see that? So now I'm going to write that so that all I have left is my 3 times 2. And then of course we have my, and then at the end I'm going to have my y times y. Now guys, remember, let's check your answer. If I multiply negative 1 times 3, I get negative 3. If I multiplied negative 3 times 2, I get a negative 6. Negative 6 times 2 gives me a negative 12. Then of course you get 2 y's. Okay. Now when it comes to my 8y, I can do 2 times 2 times 2 times y. Okay. Now I need to figure out my GCF. Looks like I have a 2 and a 2, I have a 2 and a 2, and I have a y and a y. So, my greatest common factor is going to be 4y. Alright. What am I going to have left? I'm going to have a negative 3 left here, and a y. And then for my last number, all I'm going to have left there is just 2y. Okay? Well, this is going to be equal to 0. Now, we're going to be doing the same exact thing. I'm sorry. All we have left there is a 2. Sorry about that. Okay, also, guys, go back and check. If you distributed out the 4y, you're going to get what we got to begin with, that negative 12y squared plus 8y. So you can always kind of distribute this out and check your answer that way. Okay, now I need to make these equations equal to 0. Okay, so there's 1. My next one, I'm going to have negative 3y plus 2 is equal to 0. Now I'm going to start solving. 4y, divide 4 from both sides, that's going to give me y equals 0. And over here, I'm going to minus 2 from both sides. Lastly, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. And I'm going to get a positive 2 over 3. So, my solution set is going to be 0, 2 over 3. Okay? So that one takes a little bit more work, but it's still that same principle. All right? Now, what the substitute is getting ready to hand out is this is going to be workbook it's 8-2. Okay, and you're going to be doing all of these. Now there are 2 sheets to this. Okay, so you should be getting 2 sheets. Now what they deal with is what you should do first is page 11 and page 12. Okay, because if you look at those 2 pages, if you want to go ahead and hand out, well, you know what? Don't hand them out yet, or if you can, if you already have. But if not, let me explain it. Otherwise, people are going to start working. Now, if you look at those 2, once you get these, if you look at those 2 pages, 11 and 12, they give you some really great examples to what you're doing. Okay. Now, I've already been over this through this, so you can also look through your notes. But also look at those examples. They can be very helpful. Okay. Like I said earlier, I'm going to be back Friday, so we're definitely going to kind of run through this stuff. But I do expect you guys to have you should no doubt have page 11 and 12 finished by the end of the day. Okay. Now for the second page to this, page 14 and page 13, those are just some more practice, which I think will be very beneficial, especially whenever you guys take a quiz on this stuff, which will be sometime next week. So definitely do this. Now it's up to the substitute. If you guys work quietly for, 15, 20 minutes, this is completely up to the substitute. She is more than welcome to have you guys working partners. Now, if you guys get too loud, you guys can go back to individual work. So that's on the substitute. It does not matter to me. I hope you guys have a terrific Thursday, and I will see you guys Friday. Also, if you guys need to replay some of these problems that I went over, you can do that also. All right, bye-bye.